mode.
Hi everyone, thanks for logging in to this pre-departure webinar for your Teach in China program. This is Allie and Kelvin is also here. Kelvin, are you still there? You want to say hi?
Hey everybody, this is Kelvin. I'm doing the Teach in China program in Shanghai.
Thanks, Kelvin. We're going to start in just about a minute, but before we start, I just want to make sure you can all hear us. So if you don't mind, in that questions bar on your panel, if you can just write yes, I can hear you to both me and Kelvin, just so I know we're not having any technical problems. That would be awesome. And if you can't hear us, or if you only could hear one of us, please tell me so we can hopefully fix it. Okay, good. Looks like you can hear us. Well, if you can't hear us or somehow the sound goes out or something happens, please just write in that questions bar if you're having any issue, and hopefully we'll be able to fix it. I also want to let you all know that this questions bar is a great place to ask all your questions. You can ask personal questions that just relate to you or questions that might help everyone. We'll try and answer some questions throughout the presentation, but if we don't get to your question throughout the presentation, we will answer it at the end, and we can either read your question out loud, answer for everyone, or we can write back to you personally or individually to answer just your question. So feel free to ask any questions that you have. I also want to let you guys know that this is being recorded, and I will send out a recorded version before the end of the day today, so you can always go back and reference it if you have any questions or you want to listen to it again. So Calvin, I think, is mostly going to take over. I'll do a couple of these slides, but we'll get started here. Quickly, I wanted to introduce the CIE Portland staff, and we'll introduce Kelvin as well. Obviously, you all know me. I'm Allie. I'm your Teach in China coordinator. I am in the picture on the right. That was me in China, my first year there, when I was teaching there and living there in Beijing, obviously, on the Great Wall. It was an awesome experience, and I went back several times after that, and I just don't think the Great Wall gets old. I loved it. So to the left is my manager, Stephen Bush. He's the manager of the CIE Teach Abroad programs here in Portland. Kelvin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you, Ali. Hi, this is Kelvin. I'm doing the Teach in China program in CIE's Shanghai office. I've been joining this program for about more than 9 years, so this is the 10th year of my work for CIE. So I'm very glad to be with you guys in the coming year when you are on the program in China. So I will be the main contact, the main CIE contact in China. So if you have any question, feel free to contact either Ali or me. So we are happy to help.
Thanks, Kelvin. So just a quick webinar overview, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Kelvin. He'll talk about most of this stuff, but what we're going to talk about today is the locations in China that we work in, more about visa and flights, more information about orientation, some things about lesson planning, and then just some logistics, unpacking and housing and gifts and what to bring and safety and money and things like that. And then, of course, we will have questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this on over to Kelvin now, and then I'll talk a little bit later on about INEX International Insurance and a couple other things.
Thank you, Ali. Should we go to, okay, thank you. So CIE started the Teach in China program in 1997. So by now we have been working with more than 200 schools in different provinces in China. So for this departure, we have participants going to Shanghai, Jiangsu province, Chongqing city, Shandong province, and yep, I think most are those places. So and the Sichuan province. So we will be happy to provide, your placement information if you need. And basically, you can turn to the CIE on school placement information and it sent you in your CIE account box. So, but if you have any specific question regarding your school or the location, please feel free to contact us. We are happy to answer questions. Shall we go to the next one? Shall we go to the next page, Ali? Thank you.
Sorry, it takes a minute. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Let me know if you want me to talk about
Sorry.
this one, Calvin. I can talk about this one too.
Okay. So regarding the visa, for now, most of our participants will come to China with the Z visa, which is a working visa. And for a small part of our participants, due to the timing and some other issues, you will have to come to China with a tourist visa. But as we said earlier, your school will be responsible for changing your tourist visa into Z visa. We will provide more instruction on this, and then I'm pretty sure Ali will assist you with your tourist visa application. So today we will focus on the Z visa application. So basically you need to provide these documents, and for some of our participants, your school have already obtained your work permit and the visa invitation letter, and we have mailed it to My China Visa. But for a lot of our participants, your school are still working on those documents. So once we get those letters from your school, we will mail it to My China Visa, and definitely we will keep you updated on the process. And what you need to do is to work with Ali to make sure you mailed all the necessary documents to My China Visa. Ali, do you have any other comments on this?
No, that was perfect, Calvin. Thank you. And all of these instructions I'll send you when we get your letter, or you can always view the instructions on how to apply for your visa on your application. So on your application, there's a reading called Visa Instructions. This is for a Z visa. If you do need to apply for a tourist visa for any reason, I'll send you separate instructions. But if you haven't sent your stuff to My China Visa already for your Z visa, you can do that now. My China Visa will hold on to your documents until they get your work permit. So it's not a huge rush if you don't have your letters yet, but if you would like them to just hold on to it, they can do that for you. And they have a list of CIA participants, so you can feel confident that it'll be safe there.
Thank you. Okay, so let me explain more regarding the legal documents you need when upon your arrival in China. Once you arrive at your school will start the application for your work permit and your residence permit. So it takes about 1 month to get through this process. So during this process, your school will need you to submit your original passport and some other necessary documents to the local government. So please make sure you will not have any travel plan during this process, since you cannot travel out of China without your passport, and your current Z visa is single entry only. Once you get your residence permit, your visa will be changed into multiple entry. So, and also, even you are traveling domestically in China, you still need your passport to check into a hotel or to get onto a plane or a train or a bus. So we don't suggest you to have any travel plan until you get your work permit and residence permit and get your passport back to you. Okay.
Thanks,
go to the next one?
Yeah, and I just want to quickly say one question that came in. That was a really good question. If you don't have your visa letter yet and you don't know your arrival date, your visa application will ask you for an arrival date. So if you don't know the date, obviously that might be a little issue. It's important to know that that arrival date does not have to be exact. It is an estimate. So if you wanted to write like September 1st or September 5th or something like that on your application and send it in, that's completely fine. It doesn't have to be exact, just so you know.
Thank you. Regarding your flight to China, for now we will organize 2 main orientations, once in Shanghai, once in Chongqing, because we are working with the local government in Chongqing, so we will organize an orientation for all the teachers in Chongqing with the local government. So, but considering we only have 3 participants now get their visa letters, so we will have to wait until most of the participants in Chongqing get their visa letters. Then we can decide a date for the Chongqing orientation. So for now, we don't have a date for the Chongqing orientation, but definitely we will let you know as soon as possible. For those 3 Chongqing teachers, since you already got your visa, so you can come to Chongqing on the date as your school requested, and the school will send a representative to meet you in the airport and to arrange your apartment. So what we need you to do is to send us your flight information as soon as possible, so we can inform your school to make arrangements for you. And for the participants going to the other places in China, if you get your visa in time, you will come to the first Shanghai orientation from August 29th to September 2nd. So we will provide the airport pickup on August 29th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you unfortunately miss this airport pickup window, you can go to this orientation hotel on your own. We will provide a very detailed information regarding the location of the hotel, and basically it takes about 250 RMB from the Pudong Airport to the hotel, which is in the downtown. And for the Shanghai orientation participants, we will help you to arrange your transportation from Shanghai to your school. Definitely, your school will send people to meet with you there when you arrive. Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. And one more thing about that I know people typically ask a lot. If you are going to the Shanghai orientation, CIEE will arrange for you to get to your school as well. So you do not need to book a flight or a train ticket or a bus ticket or anything like that. We'll do that for you, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
The next slide I'll quickly talk about is about INEX International Insurance. You all should have received an email from INEX a couple of weeks ago. I enrolled you all. And if you did not receive an email from them, please let me know so I can ask them to resend it to you. All the information that you really need to know should be in that welcome email, including your policy number. That's your unique policy number. If you need to use this insurance for any reason, you will be asked to pay up front and then use your policy number to submit for a reimbursement. This insurance does not cover any pre-existing conditions, so it just covers kind of accidental. So if you get really sick and need to go to see a doctor, or you break your arm or something like that, of course I hope none of that happens, but if it does, this insurance will cover you. If you have any other questions about the insurance, you can also refer to the reading section of your application, or of course you can ask me as well. Just know that if you do need to use this insurance, bringing in a card or your email to a hospital is kind of useless. No one will really understand what it is. Just make sure that you get a receipt for whatever you pay for so you can submit to INEXT for a reimbursement. And if you have any questions, Teach Abroad actually sits right next to INEXT here at CIEE, so I can always march over there and ask them some questions if you need anything. And actually, before I go to the next slide, a question just came in about insurance, and I want to answer while we're on this slide. The question is, do most participants buy private health insurance while in China? CIEE doesn't require anything, so I don't technically know what people do in addition to this. I think that typically people will still be covered by their primary insurance, especially if you're on medication for something already, or if you see a primary physician frequently for a pre-existing condition, then you should definitely keep your insurance. Otherwise, if you don't see a doctor and you really just need international insurance to cover you if something catastrophic happens, or even if, not as catastrophic, if you got sick, you got strep throat, you got a bad cold or food poisoning or something, this insurance will cover you for stuff like that. Otherwise, I think, and Kelvin, you can talk about this too, the health insurance in China is pretty good, or I mean the health care, and typically it's not too expensive unless something really terrible happens, which of course we hope it does not, but otherwise I think the health care is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, since, for most of our participants are going to teach in a bigger city like Shanghai, Chongqing, or Chengdu, or Qingdao. So definitely we will have very good in healthcare there. So if you have any health issue, definitely your school will help you to go to see a doctor. So the hospitals are very different to the hospitals in the States, but basically you will be fine with the medical care in China. Okay, so thank you, Ali. So we are going to do the orientation, the Shanghai orientation in Shanghai Jiao Tong University, which is famous university in China, and the school campus is in the downtown, so which is very convenient for our participants to go around when you have time. This is the main gate of the university, so it will be a very landmark for you to find a hotel. The hotel is on campus inside the gate, so you can, when you get into this gate, you will easily find the hotel with a big sign on your right. So definitely we do hope you can catch our airport pickup window, so you can come to our hotel with our buses. Shall we go to the next one? This is the main gate of the Chongqing orientation venue. So this is a government building. We are working with the Chongqing government to support the teachers in Chongqing and to support the orientation there. So we will provide more details when we decide the Chongqing orientation date. Shall we go to the next one? Okay, for orientation accommodation, so our participants, either you are in Shanghai or Chongqing, so you will accommodate in a hotel during the orientation. So we will provide a room for 2 participants and include breakfast and lunch, and the hotels are providing the cable's internet access. For participants who arrive earlier, regarding the visa policy, we don't suggest you arriving in China more than 2 days before the start date of your supposed arrival date. So for example, if you are supposed to come to Shanghai orientation on the 29th, we don't suggest you to arrive more than 2 days earlier. Otherwise, it will cause a bit of problems regarding the timing of your visa done in time. Not your visa, your residence permit and your work permit done in time. So, and for the participants who do need to arrive within 2 days earlier, if you can find a hotel on your own for the extra nights. If you do want to stay with the same hotel as the orientation, please let us know on no later than August the 20th, so we can book a room at the hotel for you. Otherwise, you can find a hotel and you can come to the orientation hotel on the 29th. And if you have any other particular who you want to stay with at the orientation, you can let us know. We can arrange you guys in the same room. Should we go to the next one? Okay, so when you are at the orientation, we hope we can provide the necessary knowledge and information regarding Chinese culture, and the teaching issues in China. So we will invite some former CIE teaching China participants to come to the orientation to share their stories and experiences with you, to help you to get more knowledge regarding the Chinese, especially the Chinese culture. We will provide intercultural training module for the orientations. So, as you know, you will take a CIE framework course before you come to China. So we suggest you to take this course to prepare yourself to get more familiar with Chinese culture or familiar with the intercultural stuff. So we will do more activities and more exercises at the orientation. Also, we believe the orientation will be a very good chance for all the teacher in China participants to meet with each other to build up your own network in China. And we hope you can get very well prepared before you come to the orientation. So it is better if you can bring questions to us at the orientation. So we are happy to answer your questions and help you to solve your specific concern or problems. And also, we will provide a Chinese language learning course for the orientations. So we will have people to teach you survival level Chinese. Here are your homework. So we hope you can do some lesson planning before you come to the orientation. Please pay attention to your students' level. If you are teaching in kindergarten, please try to prepare some lesson planning for kindergarten students. If you are going to teach in a university, definitely need to prepare some lesson plan for university students. So our experienced teacher will share their insights regarding your homework and to help you to get started very soon and smoothly. If you once you've done your homework, you can send it to Addie. So we will bring it to orientation, or you can just bring it to orientation on your own. Shall we go to the next one? So as Addie said, CIA will make arrangements for your transportation to your school. So you don't need to buy a ticket. So we will buy a ticket for you, and then we will arrange a bus to send you to the airport or train station. And your school representative will meet with you when you arrive. So you don't need to worry about your arrival at your school. Shall we go to the next one? Some useful money and banking questions. So it's not necessary to bring Chinese RMB to China because you can easily to withdraw RMB in the ATMs, in the big cities like Shanghai or Chongqing or Qingdao. And we suggest you to bring some cash or international bank cards to China because you still need to prepare your first month's living costs because in China schools will pay the previous month's salary early the next month, so you need to prepare at least your first month's life costs. And some participants will bring travelers check to China, but I have to remind you that travelers check is very unusual in China. So only very few banks in Shanghai, as I know, accept the travelers check. So if you're going to some other cities, I'm not sure whether you can use it. So maybe international bank cards will be the best solution for you. And you don't need to open an account in the Chinese bank before you come to China because your school will usually open a bank account in a bank near the school to transfer your salary monthly. So you don't need to open any account before you come to China. For the orientation costs, so CIE will cover most of the orientation costs, including the accommodation and most meals, excursions, transportation, but definitely you will be responsible for some personal meals or personal purchases when you are at the orientation. Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah, and quickly while the next slide is loading, I also want to tell people if you're planning on using your credit cards when you're over in China, usually MasterCard or Visa is accepted in big cities, or even if you wanted to book travel places. It's a good idea to call your credit card company and put a travel warning on your credit card, meaning you should tell them that you are going to be living in China in the area that you're going to be living for a year or a semester, however long you're going, just so when they see a charge come from Shanghai or Chongqing or Chengdu, they're not thinking that your credit card was stolen. So it's a good idea just to call them and tell them that you will be away so your credit card doesn't get denied because they think maybe it's a false charge.
Thank you, Ali. Regarding the dress code, basically we say the business casual is okay. So, but the only thing I have to remind you is if you have a tattoo, it is better to have a clothes to cover it. Because in Chinese culture, tattoo means something differently. So, especially, so we suggest you to have a dress to cover your tattoo. And it is always a better idea to bring your own computer to China because you only can use a public computer in your office, but definitely you need a computer for your private purpose. So it's better to bring a laptop. And it'll be expensive and very inconvenient to ship things to China because according to Chinese regulation, for every package, the value of the package shouldn't be under 1,000 RMB. Otherwise, you will be charged a very high tax as import tax. So we do not suggest you to ship valuable stuff to China, especially like a cell phone or computer. It's better you bring it on your own. And as a reminder, bringing illegal drugs into China will come to a very severe result. So please be careful. Ali, do you have any personal suggestion regarding bringing some specific items to China?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Calvin. We added this slide a couple of years ago because, well, basically based on my personal experience in China, there are some things that you might use day to day here in the States that's very easy to find, but maybe impossible to find if not extremely expensive. So ibuprofen or like Tylenol, Advil, over-the-counter allergy medication, things like that is either impossible to find or will be extremely expensive if you do find it. So I do suggest bringing that with you. Also, deodorant is impossible to find in my experience. I don't know if things have changed since 2 years when I've lived in China, but I used to bring like 6 sticks with me every year just to cover myself because I got so nervous I would run out of it. For all you ladies, female feminine products are impossible to find, so you should bring that with you if you would like to. If you take vitamins of any kind, they're very, very expensive in China, like 3 or 4 times the price, so you should bring it with you. You can buy, shampoo, toothpaste, all that kind of stuff, but if you have any kind of makeup or special face products or if you are really attached to some kind of product that you use, you might not be able to find the exact same thing, and if you can find the same thing in a big city like Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Chongqing, it might be extremely expensive. And then the last thing is shoe sizes. If you are larger than a size 9 for women or 11 for men, you might not be able to find shoes that size potentially in the big cities, but maybe not. So you should definitely bring enough to cover yourself for the year.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. One more thing. If you want to bring medicine to China, it is better to have a doctor's note with you, just in case you will be questioned, by the officials at the Chinese customs. And as I said, your school will apply for your work permit and residence permit, upon arrival. So according to Chinese government's regulation, you need to bring below documents, the original documents to China with you. Your TEFL certificate, if you are requested to have TEFL, your original diploma, if you have a master's or a PhD, definitely you need to bring all your diplomas to China. the school will submit to the local government, and your state level criminal background check and the authentication, your original paperwork of your physical examination, including the examination record form, your EKG, your blood test, X-ray film. If definitely you need to bring the X-ray film, but if you are not able to find it or you are not able to get it, it's okay. So please keep this in mind. The local government will request all the original hard copy of those documents. So digital copy or a copy does not acceptable. Is not acceptable in China. Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. And I just want to mention one thing. Jessica, who is going to teach in Chongqing, who has been in China before, mentioned that she had trouble finding conditioner in China as well. So if you like conditioner, that's a good point. You might want to bring some with you.
Okay, thank you. Your living arrangements. So your school will be responsible for your accommodation in the apartment, either on campus or near the school. So basically, those rooms are with basic, furnitures on the basic necessities and the necessary utilities, internet access. So if you need further information regarding your apartment, you can turn to your school profile, or you can ask your school about any specific stuff. And then one thing we have to remind here is, since China is very humid, so in a lot of places, mold is very easy to find in your apartment. So to Chinese people, those mold are very common things, so they will not think they are scary or they're dangerous to your health. So we suggest you to prepare something if you do fear you have a mold in your apartment to China to help you to get rid of some molds. Since if you have a mold in the school apartment, it will be a bit difficult for the school for your school colleagues to understand why you cannot stay in a room with molds. Do you have any other comments regarding this, Ali?
Yeah, I think that you did a good job explaining it. I think mold is pretty common in China because it's so humid there. It's kind of unavoidable. It could potentially be worse in some places than others, but you should just be prepared that it's pretty likely you will have some kind of mold in your apartment, and we're not saying that it's going to be every small inch, but don't be surprised if you see it there. It's kind of unavoidable because of the humidity. So if there's something that you can bring with you from the States, I never did living in China. It never really bothered me. I never had a huge problem with it, but it's important to understand that it could potentially be in your apartment. And if you do see some, especially in the bathroom or places where there's high humidity, it's common and it is unavoidable. So if you wanted to kind of look to see if there's something you can bring with you to help with that issue, by all means, but we just wanted to mention it because we don't want you to be totally surprised when you get there and think it's just your apartment. It's not across the whole country just because of the humidity in China.
Thank you, Ali. I just saw someone is asking about the roommate, so I can explain here. So for all of your teachers, you will have a private bedroom in the apartment. Sometimes you are living on your own, sometimes you have a roommate, but you will have your private bedroom. So we're not able to find out who will be your roommate for now until you are in China or you arrive at school. The school will make arrangements for you. So basically, we're not able to give you more details for now. Shall we go to the next one? Okay, safety issue. Generally speaking, China is a very safe country, especially for foreigners. So, but definitely, something will always happen anywhere in the world. So please keep this in mind. 110 is China's 911, and the 120 is for the emergency medical care. In some big cities like Shanghai, Beijing, they have an English-speaking operator for 110. So if you call it, you can speak English to them. But keep this in mind: your school FAO, Foreign Affairs Officer, who is responsible for your logistic issues, legal issues, and the safety issue, will be the first priority of the person you need to contact if there's any emergency. And you can contact CIE, contact me or Ali if you need any assistance. In China, the tap water is not for direct drinking, so please don't drink tap water directly. You can get it boiled, or you can buy some bottled water for drinking. But it's okay for toothbrushing. And we know the street food are always very attractive, but we do suggest to be careful with some street food since they're easy to cause stomach problems. Shall we go to the next one?
I also want to mention with the tap water, I also brushed my teeth with it. That wasn't a problem for me living there. I just never drank it. You can also boil it, or getting like a big jug, like similar to the ones that you might find in an office, are really inexpensive, and you'll likely have something like that in your apartment.
Okay, thank you.
And also the street food is delicious. I know I say this every time, and Kel and I always disagree on it. Obviously, use your best judgment. If a place looks terrible and really unsanitary, then use your best judgment, but definitely don't miss the street food. It's delicious and amazing.
Thank you, Addie. CIE provides on-site support for every participant when you are on the program. So me will provide assistance to you if you need any support, including like enforce contracts between you and your school, to help you to fix a conflict, to negotiate with the school on your behalf, or negotiate with you on your school's behalf, and provide ongoing support. So if you need any assistance, feel free to contact me or Ali. So here below are my contacts, but you don't need to write it now. So Ali will send you the details after this webinar. Should we go to the next page?
Yeah, I will send that out in an email, and also you all should have received your Lonely Planet books in the mail. I hope you did. If you didn't, then please let me know. I also included a important phone numbers sheet, so Kelvin's number is on there, as well as the emergency numbers that we talked about before. They're all on there, but I can also email all that stuff to you as well, so you can have it in digital format also.
Yeah. Thank you. And as I said, I've been doing this program for more than 9 years, so I've been working with more than 1,000 participants in the past 9 years. So I saw a lot of participants, they had a good time here. They developed their professional skills as a teacher, or they made a really great friendship with their students, colleagues, and local Chinese people. So they made it very unique and specific, story and experience for themselves. And we believe you will make your own story, your own unique experience. So let's see, what you can do to develop your skills, to make friends with the local people, with your students, and or even to travel around China to experience more about the Chinese culture. So should we go to the next pages one by one? Yes, basic Chinese people are very enthusiastic towards foreigners, so you can make very good friends with local people either in your school or outside your school. So we had so many participants who were invited to celebrate a local holiday with a local family, and that will be really great experience. When you are traveling in China. Should we go to the next one? Yeah, so I think for a lot of persons, you come to China to see a very different and older country, and since you will enjoy the Chinese public holiday, so you'll have a lot of time to travel around. If you are a 1-year contract teacher, you definitely will have a winter holiday near the Chinese Spring Festival. So you have plenty of time to go around China, see different places, to experience very different, things here. So to be honest, a lot of my former participants, they travel to more places than me did. So I really think you guys we will have a great time here. Should we go to the next page? Yeah, being in China will be a perfect opportunity for you to learn Chinese language. So it provides a very local, emergent learning environment for you. So some participants fear they're not going to northern China, which means they're going to a place people do not speak Mandarin, but basically for the young generation of Chinese people, they do speak Mandarin everywhere, so you don't need to worry about you don't speak Mandarin in Chengdu or Chongqing. You can speak Mandarin there. So I don't think you will have any problem with finding people practicing Mandarin with you in China. And it will be very easy to find a student or a Chinese colleague to do language exchange with you, which means you teach them English and they teach you Chinese. That works very well for a lot of our participants before. Okay, should we go to the next one? Okay, so we'll wrap up the presentation now, and if you have any question, you can use the answer box. So we are happy to answer your question. If you have any further question after this webinar, please feel free to contact Addie or me, so we will provide more information to you. Thank you.
So we have a question that came in about U.S. politics, if you will be asked about U.S. politics, and if so, how should you respond? I would say that it's pretty likely that you might be asked about U.S. politics, potentially not by Chinese people or your students or colleagues, but likely from other expats for sure, especially with what's going on in politics today. It's a pretty controversial election, as we all know, and traveling abroad right now, it's pretty interesting to be an American abroad because you likely will be asked about it. I would say it's okay to talk about your opinion, maybe not go too far into it. I think it's more important that you don't talk about Chinese politics. Kelvin, do you have anything else to say about that?
I think you're right. So basically, if you I personally suggest you to avoid getting involved in those discussion or conversation regarding the politics.
Definitely in the classroom, avoid it. Like, especially if you're teaching at the university level, if your students bring it up, which I think it's unlikely that they would, but if for whatever reason they did, I would definitely avoid talking about it at school or at work. Right, Kelvin?
Yeah, I think so. And I guess maybe the presidency election will be a very popular question for the participants that we're at the right time. So yeah, it will be very popular here. I see participants asking about taking the shots. So I think if you, okay, I think Eddie answered the question. That's okay.
Another question came in about how many suitcases you're allowed to bring. You're allowed to bring as many suitcases as you want. I would say that you should definitely check with your airline. Most airlines nowadays allow you to bring one for free, and then sometimes you have to pay for the second one. Sometimes they allow you to bring two for free. But what you should keep in mind too is that if you are, depending on where you're going to orientation, if you're going to orientation in Shanghai and traveling somewhat far to your school, keep in mind that domestic travel, obviously that will be a different flight, so you'll need to bring your luggage with you. Sometimes with domestic travel, you'll need to pay for those suitcases. So in terms of packing, I always recommend bringing less is more. You don't need a ton of stuff. You're not going to the middle of nowhere. You will be able to purchase things if you need it. I typically say bring the essentials with you. I wish that was advice that I listened to when I was living abroad. I never did. I always brought way more than I needed, and I always regretted it. So technically you're allowed to bring as much as you want. Just keep in mind that if you bring a lot, it could come at a cost in terms of travel, both to China and if you need to travel domestically.
Yeah, the Chinese domestic flights usually only allow you to bring 20 kilogram, stuff in total, including the carry-on and the claim the baggage. So for the rest part, as Eddie said, you have to pay for the overweight.
The next question, we have some good ones coming in, and I just want to let you all know that we have quite a few, so we will get to your question. Just we ask you to be patient. We're going to just go in order at the time they came in. So the next question is, what would be a good gift for coworkers or others in the school that you meet? That's a great question. I would say anything made in the USA would be a good gift, or potentially even made in the town where you're from if there's something special. For example, now I live in Portland, Maine, and blueberries. I think Maine is the #1 state where the most blueberries are made, I guess, would be the right word for that. So I typically bring something blueberry flavored, made in the U.S. for colleagues. A couple things to keep in mind with gifts. There are some things that you should definitely not bring. Clocks, you don't give to a Chinese person as a gift. Umbrellas, you also don't give to a Chinese person as a gift. Kelvin, am I missing anything? Or are those the two main?
Yes, I think you're right. Clock and umbrella.
Yeah.
We will explain why, at the orientation.
Yeah. You're also welcome to look it up if you'd like to, or if you want to wait. If you can wait that long to orientation, we'll talk about it. But other than that, anything made in the USA would be a nice gift. And you definitely don't have to go overboard. Something small just to show your appreciation for them helping you to get your work permit and to get you over to China would be very nice.
Yeah. Someone is asking about the curriculum. So basically, your school will not make assignment until they meet with you in person. So basically, you will get to know your assignment when you arrive at the school. So I think the school will provide, a textbook or some lesson planning for your preference, so that you can start do some lesson planning. Basically, I don't think most Chinese schools were using American curriculum, so you were using a Chinese textbook, which means you're not able to get before you come to China. So, yeah, my suggestion is to prepare some interesting topics for your students, will help you in the classroom, and you can discuss the curriculum when you arrive at school with your Chinese colleagues.
Another question about shopping in China. This question is about Walmarts and these types of stores in China and the types of things you can buy there. As we mentioned before, I mean, you can pretty much buy whatever you can buy in the U.S. in these types of stores, especially in the big cities, but some very specific things like vitamins or maybe a specific spice that you like, a very specific, I don't know, face product or shampoo or something like that, you might not be able to find. So I would definitely say that the necessities you can find in these Walmart type places, but don't expect them to be identical to Walmart in the U.S. They won't be. But the general idea of the types of things you can buy at these stores is the same. So it's a good place to go, if you need shampoo or toothpaste or things like that.
I'm not sure whether you can deposit US dollars in an American bank account in China because we recently suffered a lot banking problem between China and the States. So I suggest you to be very careful and turn to your bank staff to make sure they have a branch in China, and the branch will allow you to withdraw the money from the deposit. Otherwise, will cause some problems. And it's very unfortunate that we are not finance specific, so we have very limited in finance knowledge. So sometimes we're not able to answer whether you can or you cannot because we really don't know about that. So my suggestion is to turn to your uh, uh, bank's staff to ask about those specific finance questions.
Yeah, I think, like Calvin said, we've run into an issue with this recently with a previous participant. There are some complications for bringing some Chinese money back to the U.S. It's definitely possible, but it does require some research, so it might help for you to talk to your bank here in the U.S. Maybe do some other research where you found that PayPal was potentially an option. They have an international option, but that didn't work out. And I think it has a lot to do with the bank that you use in China as well as the bank that you use in the U.S. So it's important to talk to your bank here first to ask them about wire transfers from international banks so you get all that information so then you can kind of figure out the other one when you arrive in China and make sure you can do that from the bank that you are using there. Next question is about if you should bring school supplies with you. I would say that that's kind of up to you. I might suggest waiting to see what kind of supplies your school provides. I wouldn't expect much, but they might give you, a book or something like that to teach out of potentially. Otherwise, if you have ideas of lesson plans that you want to do with your students and that require some specific supplies, then by all means bring them. But also keep in mind that you're not going to the middle of nowhere, like I said before. And so it's pretty likely you'll be able to purchase supplies when you're there, should you decide you'd like to do that. The next question is about weather in China. The question specifically is how is winter in Chongqing compared to New York? It's hard to obviously pinpoint exactly what the weather is like from year to year. I don't know about where you all are in the U.S., but Maine, Portland specifically, had quite a different winter this winter than we did last winter. Last winter we had tons and tons and tons of snow, and this winter it was pretty mild. We barely had any. So it's kind of hard to compare, but I would say that in general, winters in China are more mild than the U.S., especially in Shanghai and more south, which is where most of you are placed. So I don't think that it's too bad, and I think snow is less common in Shanghai and south. So obviously, the more north you go, the colder it is, and the more snow you'll get. Calvin, does that sound right?
Yeah. So especially regarding Chongqing. So since I'm based in Shanghai, but I've been to Chongqing in the winter time. So I guess the winter in Chongqing is very humid and very cold actually. But snow is really rarely to see. So but with a lot of rains there, so it's very rainy and very humid weather in Chongqing.
Any other questions that you guys have? I think we've answered all that have come in so far, but if you have anything else, feel free to write them in. Obviously, you all know you're more than welcome to call me or email me with any other questions that come up, but now's a really good chance to ask questions for Calvin because as much as I wish we could always have access to him, we don't because of the time difference.
Regarding traveling in China domestically, for most of the places in China, you can easy to travel. So you can take a flight or a bullet train in China. So for example, if you take bullet train from Shanghai to Beijing, it only takes 5 hours. Very fast, very easy. There are some specific areas you need a special permission to travel, like Tibet. But it's still not that difficult. We had a lot of participants who went to Tibet on their own. So you need some special permission from a local travel agency. So if you need, we can provide more information for you. But generally speaking, it's super easy to travel, between cities and the provinces in China.
Yeah, it's super easy, and it's also really easy to travel to other countries as well. I mean, of course, depending on where you want to go and when you're going, but it's somewhat easy to travel once you get to Asia.
Once you have your visa, as I said, before you get your residence permit, you are not allowed to travel out of China because your Z visa is a single entry visa. So once you get your residence permit, it will be changed into multiple entry. So please do not have any plan to travel out of China before you get your residence permit.
I also want to point out that in some cases it does take 3 months, so you should plan for 3 months, but it might not take that long. So you just should be in contact with your school to find out the exact time frame for getting your work permit. But once you get your work permit, that is a multiple entry visa, so you can travel in and out of China once you get your work permit, but not before. And I also wouldn't even suggest traveling to other cities in China without your work permit because you will not have your passport during some of this time. If you don't have your passport, you can't book a train ticket, you can't book a hotel. So it's probably best just to stay put in your city during the time that your school is applying for your work permit. And then once they get it, as we mentioned before, you're more than welcome to travel in and out of China as much as you'd like.
Yeah, you can get a visa for another country while you are in China. We have so many participants who travel to other Asian countries when they were in China. So yeah, this is possible.
That's a good point. And just make sure that you do your research to make sure if you do need a visa for other countries that you apply for one before you go. For example, Vietnam, you need a visa to go, but a place like Thailand, you can go for 30 days without a visa. It's kind of a visa upon arrival. So just do your research to make sure that you are applying for a tourist visa for other countries if you need it. It looks like the questions have slowed down a bit. I'll stay on the line for another couple of minutes. I think Kelvin can too. So if you have other questions, feel free to write them in there. Otherwise, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to come to this pre-departure webinar. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any other questions, you're more than welcome to contact me. And hope you have a great day and a great trip to China.
Okay. So we have a last question regarding the weather in Jiangxi. So Jiangxi is a bit similar to Shanghai, but it's still very humid, very rainy, more rainy than Shanghai.
I also think that you can do some research on your specific city as well to kind of get the trends. It's similar to the U.S. There's a lot of different types of climates around China. And a simple Google search sometimes can also be really helpful just to see your specific town or city. You can kind of get an idea of what the weather is typically like if you'd like to prepare for that clothing-wise and stuff like that. Okay, guys. Well, thank you all again for logging in. Calvin, I don't know if you want to say bye, but I know we both appreciate you coming to this pre-departure webinar, and I know Calvin's excited to meet you all in China soon.
Yeah, thank you. So I look forward to meeting with everyone in China when you come in at the end of this month. Thank you.